So you probably don't remember this, but over 10 years ago, I was living in England, searching for some inspirational speakers, and I came across your name, dug down this rabbit hole, and all of a sudden started buying Timberland shoes. Yes. And then I thought, what better to bring you to England? So I wrote you a cold call email, knowing that you would probably never respond, but you did, in humility. And sadly, it didn't work out because I think you were waiting for the birth of a grandchild in Jerusalem. But fast forward, we're in our office in Jerusalem at עוגן, and Sagi calls me in for a meeting with a Noah, no last name, and you come in behind him. And that was 2.5 years ago, and I am privileged to be able to call ourselves partner of yours. I am inspired by your vision and your thinking, and I'm just very, very happy that we're able to have this conversation here to share with everyone. So thank you for being here. So we have about 3 hours. I'm just kidding. So you've made a transition that many people do not. You know, building a global footwear company, and you decide to make Aliyah and invest all your time and efforts as a social investor. Can you share with us what brought you to that decision, how you got to that stage?
Well, first, thank you for the privilege of participating with people of purpose today. I appreciate everybody who has interest in this question of a new balance sheet for the state of Israel, one that we need. And I also want to say thank you because I did come here in Aliyah with 4 generations. And the only reason I could come here in Aliyah with 4 generations is because you built a state for me and for my children and my grandchildren. And I don't know you, but I am grateful. You asked, what did I learn in the private sector? I learned in the private sector that income statement creates energy, but balance sheet creates wealth. And that in social change, the same is true. The idea of annual fundraising, the idea of programmatic spending, these are important and essential notions. But unless somebody looks at capitalizing social change from a balance sheet perspective, we will have this desperate effort annually to try and feed the hungry and clothe the naked. We won't solve the problems that, in fact, Israel is capable of solving.
Fascinating. I mean, we've spoken on this in the past, but we're living in dramatically different times, right, since October 7th, and we can't ignore that. How do you lead in this new reality? How do you make adjustments to your approach while remaining true to yourself and the belief that you have?
We've talked about this. Paro has a dream that says 7 good years and then 7 bad years, and that's the end of his imagination. Paro thinks we get through those 7 bad years, everything will be okay. He doesn't recognize that reality has changed forever. We do recognize that as Israelis. Reality has changed forever, internally and externally. Anyone who talks about building back has missed the story. We don't want to go back, we want to go forward. And then the question is, how do we go forward? The way the Jewish people have always gone forward. We create space for the next generation to lead. And if there's any confusion, are there leaders in this generation? Again, where have you been during this war? Where have you been? In social innovation, in civic innovation, in military innovation, look around. The leaders of our generation, not the future leaders, are walking among us. It's our job. This is a balance sheet notion. Look at your balance sheet. The single most precious asset on the Israeli balance sheet are the young people who are leading our nation now. And what we are doing in the meantime is choking that balance sheet and making it hard for them to lead.
So take us through a little bit further. How do you, for simple people that don't always think in this philosophy, in these terms, how do you take this philosophy? How do you leverage every philanthropic dollar? Can you explain this to the audience and to myself as well?
Look, I'm not good at it. I'm certainly passionate about it. And look, what I love about your model is it's leveraged. It's the opposite of unlevered, right? The fact of the matter is, and it's a hard fact, but it's true. In the United States, 50 cents of every dollar invested in what they call philanthropy has impact. The other 50 cents is for vanity and good intentions, but has no impact. If you look at the affect, the impact of income-based philanthropy, as opposed to tzedakah, That's a good ratio, 50 cents on the dollar. But if you invest $1 against the balance sheet of social change, which is what Ogden is all about, it's the opposite leverage. It's not $1 worth 50 cents. $1 can be worth $10. And as long as Ogden continues to think about the role of the private sector in social change, we have a chance, right? Because it's not the job of the church or the government alone to create social change unless you can work across sectors, aligning the sectors to work together. The only way you'll get the private sector to align is if you can show that there is in fact a profit motive that can be coexistent with the notion of social change. And so I am a deep believer. I learned this in the hard way in the US. Commerce and justice don't have to be antithetical notions. Profit and purpose is not it doesn't have to be a phrase. It can be actually something we build. And that's what I think you're doing, and that's why I'm a believer in Ogden.
So am I. Now, people in the audience will sit there thinking, okay, Ogden has it easy. They're in the financial space, leveraging dollars, much, much easier. How do you take that into non-financial senses? Can you give us an example of other sectors where this applies?
Well, first you start with a deep conviction. There is no social sector that can do what it dreams of doing if it doesn't learn to think about its balance sheet. The balance sheet is not just financial, obviously. It's social capital and political capital and economic capital, and it's also it's human capital. And so if you want to be the minister of magic, that's one ministry we don't have. We have 3,000 or so ministries. But we'll create the ministry of magic. So I'll make you the minister of magic. But your job now is not to make education in Israel better, but it's to approach education differently. If your job is not to feed the hungry today and feed the hungry tomorrow, but to actually address the notion of waste in the food system or an independent food system, period, in Israel, you're just going to need to start from a balance sheet. Is there human capital? The answer is absolutely unequivocally yes. We built מעוז 15 years ago. We're 1,500 network members from every sector and every tribe, and I can report with humility but clarity, there ain't no shortage of talent in this country. There's no shortage of innovative people who can do what needs to be done. There's nothing we can't solve, nothing. That's an element of the balance sheet. And so whatever it is that you want to do, whatever change you want to make as the minister of magic, please remember to look for your balance sheet first.
We're already inspiring people here.
1 minute and 30 seconds, dude. They're going to throw us out of here.
I know.
Yep.
I know. So you mentioned מעוז, and you wear that badge very, very proudly, and you've built an incredible network that we've experienced, we've seen, we've engaged with. When we're talking about building Israel 2.0, is that network enough? Do we have what it takes there? What do we need to do to build the reality that we all seek to have here?
Yeah, that's a hard question, and here's a controversial, provocative view of balance sheet. When the Russian wave of immigration came to Israel, it transformed Israel. We didn't see it coming. We were resistant. We were disrespectful. We didn't handle it. We thought, like the Emma Lazarus crap at the Statue of Liberty, send me your poor little refugees and we'll make things better. If we hadn't had the blessing of the Russian immigration, we wouldn't have a cyber industry. We wouldn't have some of the security things that we have. The fact of the matter is, I made a career out of being better lucky than smart, but Israel shouldn't. What would happen if this crowd of powerful people today, sitting in the auditorium, said, yeah, what would it take to attract 1.5 million incremental Israeli citizens in the next 5 years? What would it take to bring to this country, to our balance sheet, people as passionate as you, as smart as you, as good as you, but that aren't here now, not running away, coming here because this is the only place on earth for a Jew to be, the only place to be. So what does it take to bring the doctors and the engineers and the academics and the entrepreneurs and the blue-collar workers and the practical engineers? What does it take to bring 1.5 million more citizens to our balance sheet? I don't know what it takes, but if you're interested, I'm interested too. See me at the break, because 1.5 million more people, and we will have everything we need to capitalize the reinvention, the refounding of the state. And given the pain we've suffered together and continue to suffer together, nothing less is able. Nothing less is worthy. We can't make it what it was. We need to refound this state, and we could use 1.5 million more citizens. That's my thought.
At the risk of being sent off the stage, I want to, when we were preparing for this, you spoke of the core center in the Galil. And I was inspired by your thinking around this. Can you just spend a minute, 60 seconds, on this example?
All right, kick me. Chlor in the north at Kfar Blum. Anybody know where it is? Oh, everybody knows where it is? You know what it was doing during the war? Yeah, nothing. It was closed, right? So what's the objective? Let's open it again. I have a dear friend, a guy I love with my heart and soul, lives in Eilad Shachar, and his daughter danced there, and she lost a year of dancing there, and we got to open the school again. Not interesting. Not interesting. Now, if you want to take Chlor and reimagine Chlor as the place, the only place on earth, if you want a spot at the Bolshoi, if you want to dance with the New York Ballet, if you want a spot at the Royal Dance Company, you better have attended Chlor. Now, if that's your imagination, if you want to imagine the North in this corner as a cultural center, not for Israel, of course for Israel, but for the world, if you want to have that conversation about Tanglewood in Western Massachusetts, if you want to have that conversation about Nashville, you want to talk about leveraging the balance sheet of Israel in a way that will transform people, that's a balance sheet conversation I'd love to have with you, because Chlor is a spectacular institution. A spectacular institution, and imagine if it was a magnet, you couldn't dance at the Royal Ballet unless you'd gone to school at Chlor, changed the whole damn world, and we're capable of that.
I could sit here all day, but I really want to thank you for sharing your vision. On behalf of everyone here, you know, it's inspirational to hear you speak, and we're just very, very privileged to be able to work together, and with your dreams and practical and a lot of great people in the room, we can make it a reality.